Welcome to episode 70 of How About Them Huskies. As always, I'm your host, Connor. We got Matt and Andrew, the whole crew, back today. And Huskies fans, you can exhale. It wasn't really, I didn't think it would happen, but there's always a possibility. But UConn did not lose to the 16th seed in the opening round in Brooklyn. They defeated Stetson very easily, 91-52. The first half was like 52-19 or something like that. Complete domination of the Hatters. I mean, there's not too much to say. We'll recap it for you guys. That's what we do. But just a dominant first half. Second half was a little iffy. We only outscored them by 6, 39-33. So they certainly picked it up, the Hatters, in the second half. But I felt like we had 8 or 9 alley-oops. We were just clearly the better team. What was your guys' overall reaction to that game? We all knew it was going to happen. We expected it to happen. But what did you guys think after?
Yeah, I mean, I was a little surprised just by how easily we got the job done. I mean, if you look back at our history of first round matchups, usually, we start off a little shaky, obviously losing to Maryland and then losing again the next year to New Mexico State. Even that first half against Iona last year was a struggle. I think we were losing. But I'm just glad that we got the job done so easily. It kind of shows that, our regular season wasn't a fluke, which, sometimes these one seeds are if you look at Purdue last year. But I'm just glad that we got it done as easily as we did, just to kind of show that we aren't frauds and we have just as good of a chance of winning this year as we did last year.
Yeah, it was a rough mix. It was a really good team against a really bad team. And I noticed that probably 5 minutes in when they didn't score in the first 5 minutes. I think they got to the under 16 timeout without a point. So it was a good warm-up game for sure. But everything from here on out is going to be tougher, but always a good warm-up game against a team like that.
Yeah, and I like how you call it a warm-up game. 'Cause it kind of was. You also get guys run that, or you let your big guys, your main guys, get less run. Like Klingon only played 20 minutes in this one. He still had 19, 8, and 4 assists. So it's not like his production went down in the limited minutes. But Caravan 26, Castle 29, Newton 29, Spencer 26. I don't remember the last time we didn't have a single guy play 30 minutes. I'd have to look back. I don't know what's even happened all year. But getting guys like Solo Ball those first half minutes, and Stewart had 16 minutes, Johnson, Hassan Diarra, even getting everyone played, which is a very positive. Jaden Ross got some run, Apostolos. Everyone got under the scorecard. We saw that a lot last March, but just getting these guys, especially like the reserves that play, like not Ross, Stewart, and even Ball, if maybe he'll play a little more because he got the run here, who knows? But getting those guys minutes in this game was very big, especially because you never know what can happen if an injury goes down or foul trouble. You may need these guys for some significant minutes over the next few weeks. So getting them that run is massive.
Yeah, and the guy who played the least amount of minutes in the starting lineup was Donovan Klingon, which I absolutely loved because you don't want to risk that guy at all. And I mean, even in the least amount of minutes, I'd say he had the best and most influential performance in the whole starting lineup. If he wanted to, he could have had 40 or 50, but Dan Hurley was nice to Stetson and kind of let him off a little easy, only playing him half the game. But overall, I mean, you love to see Hurley kind of understand where his guys' spots are, and he understood that his semi-injured big man throughout the season didn't need to be playing 30 plus minutes this game.
Yeah, you could say Hurley let Stetson off easy. He didn't let our guys off easy, though. It was at halftime he was upset about what was happening when we were up by 33. That's just the type of coach he is. He wants the best out of his guys. He probably thought we should be up by more than 33 at the half, which is crazy to say, but I mean, with our talent, it's not out of the realm. It's just people kind of not ridicule him. They clown him for his antics and how he's too into it and he's all these angry faces. But it's just his coaching style, and we love him for that. He wants the best out of his players. He gets the best out of his players usually, and if he can move on, 7-game winning streak now in the tournament, I'll take whatever the coach is, whoever it is. I don't care. 7-game winning streak is really cool to see. Let's see. We'll go over some more stats, then we'll probably just move on to the preview of the next game as the cat appears in front of Matt. That's a nice little, that might not be a good sign. We're facing the Northwestern Wildcats tomorrow, so that's a little scary. At least it wasn't a black cap, but we'll move on. Like I said, Cam Spencer, 15 points, 3 threes. He had a little bit of a slow start. He missed his first couple, but he got into it. Tristan Newton, 13 points, 8 assists. Castle had 14 points. He had a nice and one finish inside. Caravan, 12 points. He got a little banged up, I think. I don't know if it was a bloody nose or what. He had to take some time off a little bit to get that cleaned up. He seemed okay, but not too much bench production. Jalen Stewart had 5 points. I know he was really picking it up recently in the Big East tournament. Good to see him carry that over a little bit. He knocked down another three. Diarra, great defense in his minutes. Sampson held his own. I mean, really almost a perfect game from our guys, which we've seen. I feel like we've seen some perfect games. That Xavier game at home where we won by 43 or whatever. That's probably as close as we've seen, even probably better than this one, but pretty damn close to a perfect game to start the tournament.
Yeah, and I was talking a lot about yesterday, just amongst myself, my friends, whatever, that everybody kind of played up to expectation and up to standard, which to me is a massive deal because I mean it's better this way than say we played Klingon 30 minutes and he had like 35 points. But Castle had like 1 of 5 shooting and like 8 points. I'd rather everybody kind of play up to standard, shoot efficiently. We shot pretty efficiently as a team, pretty up to standard, 52 from the field, 37.5% from three. So just meeting your expectations as a player, playing together and winning by 39 points. Yeah, that's a great sign with Northwestern coming up.
And honestly, I thought we'd start out a little slow, but we came out flying. I think the score, we were up by at least 20 something at one point, like 10 minutes in the first half. We just came out flying. Klingon was getting everything, like the lobs for the alley oops. Like we just looked like in sync with everybody looked in sync with each other. Like in these games, sometimes you got to get like the rust out, not playing for a couple of days, but we looked fantastic. And I'm excited for the rest of this tournament because I think that we looked the best out of a lot of the teams in this tournament so far.
Yeah, I mean, we easily could have been a 15-point game, and it wouldn't have mattered because we win anyways. But I mean, look at Purdue last year; they were the 1 seed. They lost to FDU. I know they played Grambling yesterday. I think it was kind of close in the first half. I don't know the score, but I'm sure I know they won. They ran away with it. But you never know. I mean, these Stetson, as poor as they were against us, that's just a matchup thing. They're an NCAA tournament team. You can't overlook them. I mean, this isn't like DePaul. I mean, I feel like Stetson would beat DePaul, honestly. I mean, I don't know where I'm going with this, but all in all, this is not a game you should just overlook. Oh, you're supposed to win this game by what, 39 points, whatever it was. I mean, no, you're not supposed to win any game by that much. You're supposed to beat this team, but to win by that much is really, really an accomplishment and something you should really take into Northwestern. One more thing, I was curious. I looked this up right before we started because Apostolos Rumoglu, I mean, his per 40, 17 points per game. He comes in, he produces, he got a bucket, hit some free throws. I mean, he only plays 2 minutes a game. This is not a topic we're going to go any further than 10 seconds on, but he's a guy I really think is going to have an impact for us next year if he stays with the program. You never know with the portal, but I mean, he just dominates the game when he checks in. He very rarely misses his shots. He could be the X factor to a third straight title next year, but that's enough of that. Let's move on to the main event, the reason you clicked on this video. We're previewing the round of 32 matchup. It is Sunday night at 7:45. It's a little later than I feel like some of us would have hoped. You were hoping for that, either the 12:45 or 3:15 window, whatever that prime time is on CBS. But nope, we're stuck on True TV at 7:45. But hey, we're happy to be here. We could be going home, so we'll take whatever we can get. Northwestern yesterday, if I'm sure you all saw, they played FAU the game before us. Went to overtime, and in the overtime period, the Wildcats dominated. They have three really talented players that we'll highlight here. They're not a deep squad. They have some injuries. They're down 2 starters from the beginning of the year who are out for the season, so their depth is really taking a hit. But before we really get into this, what's your guys' initial thoughts going into this one? Because it's not going to be an easy game. There's a Big Ten team that earned a bid, not an at-large, or not an auto bid. They were an at-large, so it's not like they just snuck in. They were legitimately here. I mean, not saying I'm worried, but I wouldn't shock me if they come out firing and it could get ugly for us.
What? Connor and I saw this game live. Andrew watched just kind of on his own time. But to me, Northwestern doesn't seem like much of a threat. I mean, they have their big three, which is very similar to how teams in the Big East play. You got your big three guys, and you kind of fall off, not too deep, but they're just dogs. They're a really tough team to beat. They play hard the full 40 minutes. They're not going to let you off easy. They're not going to give you any breaks. So if you're UConn, you got to come out tomorrow swinging again. You can't afford to fall behind in a game like this. This one's way too important to fall behind in because Northwestern has the shooters and they have the players to be able to put you away if you are lacking late in the first half or early in the second half.
I did watch that game against FAU, and they kind of remind me of a Creighton-esque team from this year. They have their three big guys, but besides that, they're nothing. But we saw a prime example this year when we played Creighton. If you let those three big guys go off, you're not going to lose or you're not going to win. So I think, honestly, the key to this game is just finding your three best defenders to put on those guys and containing them, and the rest should be easy. I'm obviously not saying that this is going to be an easy game, but the key to this game is just going to be containing Bowie, Lamborg, and then the other guy, I forget his name, but it's going to be containing those guys and just making sure that they're not open because they're guys that will make you pay really easily, which will not be good for us. So I just hold those guys to almost nothing. We'll be fine.
Yeah, Matt, I like how you mentioned the start thing. Obviously, going into the Stetson game, we were on a streak of having those slow starts. There wasn't a slow start against Stetson. We were up 8-0 in the blink of an eye and didn't look back. But if you get off to a slow start in the tournament, you may not be able to come back. I mean, Northwestern, they had a slow start yesterday. Both FAU and the Wildcats did. It was an ugly, ugly first half, 20-19 at the half. Northwestern 19 points. They had 19 points in the overtime period. So in the first 20 minutes they had 19. The last 5 they had 19. So they really picked it up in the second half in OT. And Andrew, you started mentioning some of their big guys. Boo Booey's the main one. Got to look out for. He had 22 points. He hit 4 threes. He's been Northwestern basketball for the past however many years he's been there. He's been there a long time. He's a stud. He's a great scorer. He'll probably most likely be Castle's assignment as their best perimeter scorer, but they got 2 other solid ones. It was Ryan Langborg's game yesterday. He was going off in overtime. I know, Matt, you saw that. He hit pretty much everything in the extra period. He finished with 27 points. If you guys don't know, he was on Princeton last year when they made their run to the Sweet 16. So he's been around in March and he's had a lot of success. So you can't overlook that. And the last guy, Brooks Barnheiser, he's just a strong wing. Doesn't take many threes, but he had 13 points, 10 rebounds, tied the game with less than 10 seconds to force overtime. So we could easily be talking about FAU right now if it wasn't for Barnheiser. But one more thing I want to talk about with these guys, they play a lot. Barnheiser didn't sit, played the full 45. Langborg played 41. Boo Booey played 43. I know there's obviously a day off. It's not like a Big East tournament or a conference tournament type of setting where you play back-to-back days, but playing that much and then having a turnaround of a day and a half, if you look at it, it's going to be tough. I mean, we had the luxury of sitting some of our guys a little more than usual, but Northwestern, they don't have that. They pretty much played 7 guys. They had 2 guys play less than a minute, so you're not really counting that. They pretty much just played 7 guys against FAU, so they're a thin team, like I said. We could use that as our advantage. I think we will. But yeah, it should be a great game no matter what.
One thing that I'm looking at in particular was the production of Ladislav Golden yesterday. Similar size to Donovan Clingan. Donovan Clingan obviously has that talent edge, but just seeing a big guy be able to kind of, get his work in on this Northwestern team kind of gives me a little bit of hope that Clingan's going to be able to replicate his performance from yesterday and that we're kind of going to be able to allow our other guys to play because obviously we have other better guys than Florida Atlantic. They obviously have John L. Davis, who was kind of like their number 1 outside of Golden. They're kind of like the tag team there. But I mean, we have Tristan Newton and Stephon Castle. The other guard in the backcourt for Florida Atlantic, obviously Jalen Gaffney, wasn't able to do anything. So I feel like as long as that backcourt pairing can show up, I feel like we shouldn't have too much trouble.
Yeah, you mentioned Golden first going off, and Clingan could as well. Northwestern's front court is certainly not one of his strengths. They have a 7-footer, Matthew Nicholson, who's out for the year. He had some like I don't know ankle injury, foot injury. He was on like a cart, so he's not a factor. So Luke Hunger got a bulk of the minutes at center for them. He's not really a guy that you want playing 29 minutes in an NCAA tournament game. He's a guy you want maybe playing 5 to spell your backup. So I feel like Klingon should have no problem against him. And Nick Martinelli is the 4-man. He's nothing too special. He had only had 4 points in 39 minutes against FAU. So yeah, the front court for the Wildcats is certainly something we should be able to exploit with Klingon and even Sampson. But we know they're going to play physical. It's a Big Ten team. They have to play physical in the Big Ten to win games, and clearly they did. Also, you can't forget this team beats Purdue at least once a year. It feels like so they don't just roll over against top competition. I feel like 2 years in a row, I'm pretty sure they beat Purdue, including this year. They were close in the second matchup too. So I don't know. This is certainly gonna be a tough game. It's not gonna be a blowout. I don't think it's gonna not come down to the wire, but we're not gonna go into halftime knowing we got this one in the bag. I feel like we did yesterday. But what do you guys think are some? I know we talked about it a little bit. What do you think are some keys to winning this game? Whether we're not quite players to watch yet, but just like things to really exploit, or what do you guys thinking?
Like I said, I mean, the backcourt has to show up. I mean, I feel like Donovan Clingan's obviously going to get his. Hurley's going to let him get his. He's going to feed Donovan Clingan. Obviously, their biggest guy right now is 6'10" in their starting lineup. So I have a feeling that Clingan's going to be able to get his. It really does come down to Castle and Newton, whether or not they show up, which a majority of the time I feel like they do. So as long as those guys can produce effectively, I feel like we'll be okay.
We just got to play through each other like we did in that Stetson game. We got to everybody's got to trust each other, like with those alley oops. Like they trusted they were going to make that play. We got to trust each other. And honestly, it's like this is a weird game because we haven't played a team like Northwestern really all season. Like yeah, they beat Purdue. They're in a tough conference, but like by no means am I saying this is going to be an easy game. But we got to play through each other and trust each other. I think honestly that's the main point for this game.
I learned this after our game yesterday. We've never played Northwestern in program history. Only one guy has, though, on our roster. A guy who had his career high with his former school. Cam Spencer put up 23 points last year on the road in a win against Northwestern when he was with Rutgers. So at least we have someone who is familiar with it's a fairly similar team, Northwestern from last year to this year. Not too many additions. So at least we have Cam in there. And I think we can just move to players to watch. You guys want to kick us off?
Yeah, I'll start. I know I've mentioned it a few times, but I'm gonna go with Castle just because I know kind of what we're gonna get from Tristan Newton. We've seen it all last year, we've seen it all this year. He's pretty solid, but the freshman, what's he gonna be able to do for us? How far is he gonna be able to take us at that one or that two? So I'm really excited. I feel like this is his most important college game so far. He needs to show it because if he doesn't, then we could be in some trouble.
I'm going to go with a game that's important for another person who is also going to be a draft pick, and that's Donovan Clingan. Like Connor said, having that 7-footer out for the year is huge for us. But Clingan, obviously, nothing going to come easy for him. But I feel like he has to be pretty much perfect tomorrow because I know their guard defense is pretty good. Like they are weak in the front court, which should give Clingan the advantage. But I think he really needs to show up on the boards and on offense and defense. Just in general, double is needed from that man tomorrow.
And for me, this isn't the only reason I'm doing this, but I just love how Gus Johnson refers to him, Killer Cam. Cam Spencer. I mean, like I mentioned, he has that experience for Northwestern, but also the Wildcats have a very veteran backcourt. Bowie is what I think is 5th year. Langborg's been around a while. Barnheiser, I think, is a junior. So, I mean, not saying Castle might struggle against a veteran backcourt like that, but it's good to have the experience, and Spencer certainly has the experience there. So I feel like we can maybe look for 4 threes out of him. He steps up in the spotlight. We know that. Remember that game at the guard, pretty much all of our games at the guard in the Big East tournament and against North Carolina. He always seems to step up in the spotlight. So I'm gonna roll with Cam Spencer. Let's say I don't know if he hits 20 points. We'll go with it. 20 points and 4 threes for Cam is my prediction. One more thing before we wrap up here. I'm sure you all are following the entire bracket, specifically the East region, though. There was a major upset. Yale, right down the street in New Haven, up as the 13 seed, upset 4 seed Auburn. I know a lot of people had Auburn as one of their even title favorites, but we'd have to play them in the Sweet 16, so that'd be quite a matchup. That's not happening. It's going to be San Diego State or Yale going in the Sweet 16 out of that spot. We'd potentially play them if we beat Northwestern, but I don't know. I'm happy to see Yale win. I've been following them all year. They have a really talented squad. I wasn't surprised. I don't know if either of you guys were. You probably were, but I wasn't surprised in my bracket, which is awful. I did pick Yale to beat Auburn, so I'll pat myself on the back there. But looking at the rest of the East region real quick before we wrap up, Illinois easily defeated Morehead State. Duquesne upset BYU. Maybe that's an upset. BYU is kind of trending down, I feel like, but Illinois and Duquesne are playing later tonight. Who else? We got Iowa State easily beat the 15 seed, and Washington State beat Drake. I know a lot of people potentially pick Drake as an upset pick there, but the Cougars of Washington State, of what's one of the two teams left in the Pac-12, move on. So a lot of talented teams left in this region. One more thing I'll ask you guys. Obviously, with Auburn out, I mean, who's the toughest competitor to us to potentially knock us off? I mean, maybe you didn't think it was Auburn before, but a lot of people seem to have. But after seeing around, what do you guys think?
It's Iowa State. I've been on this train the whole time with Iowa State. They really do scare me. I feel like that is a matchup that we could lose. I don't think that San Diego State would give us much problem, obviously, looking for their revenge after the national championship last year, but Iowa State, definitely.
It's just that Sweet 16 game that's probably going to end up being Illinois versus Iowa State. They're both wagons that could easily knock us off. But I agree with Matt that if we were to play Iowa State, I don't know if I quite trust us against them just because of how they play. But I think either way, it's going to end up being a really good bracket. Auburn losing obviously kind of sucks, but at the same time, better for us. But it's going to be a really good finish for this tournament, that's for sure.
And I'm going to pick Illinois. They scare me a lot. I mean, their offense is elite. They can turn it on at any time. They were close. It was 48-48 or something like that with Morehead State in the second half, and they went on like a plus 30 run or something to blow them out of the water. So that offense scares me. Iowa State's defense scares me. That's going to be, if that matchup happens, that's going to be a really exciting, and not appetizer, dessert, we'll call it. 'Cause I'm pretty sure that game would be after our game in the East Regional. So, yeah, I'm going to go Illinois, but I didn't see the Auburn hype. Like I said, I had Yale beating them, but a lot of people did. So it's cool. Not cool. It's not cool for them. It's cool for us to see them get knocked off. But yeah, I think that'll just about do it here for episode 70. Not a crazy long episode, but I told you want to try to get back on the consistency train for March. We last year we didn't do episodes like this between the games, or at least between the round of 64, 32, et cetera, et cetera. But we're going to try to do that this year. Hopefully our next episode that comes out early next week is talking about the Sweet 16 and how UConn's in it and not how we lost to Northwestern. But it's March. Either could happen. We're going to provide you content and record an episode either way. But yeah, I think that's all we got. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned.